Hi friends, today I'm coming to you on the other side of my library in front of my classic shelves, mainly because I wanted to try the lighting on this side. Also, I do have a microphone. I'm going to try to see how this does with sound quality as well. Just trying to get a little bit more tech savvy in our new year. I want to go over some of the books I've read in January. I was out of town all last week, which is when I would have given you a mid-month check-in. Just ignore Hopper. He's, almost 15 and he just does what he does when he wants to. Cat owners, you'll understand. Yeah, now he's listening to me. So I've read a lot, and with my brain fog and bad memory, even though I take notes, I'm doing good with my reading journal and doing some reviews on Goodreads and Storygraph. I know I still, things won't be as fresh in my mind if I wait till the end of January, because that's 2 more weeks. When I'm filming this, it is Tuesday, the 21st of January, and there's 10 more days, and I am in the middle of several books, so I'll have more for you then. So let's start off with the first book I read for the new year, actually, I did a reread of Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton, and this also has some other short stories of Edith Wharton's. Edith Wharton is an author that I've loved since college years. I majored in American literature when everybody else was doing British literature. And I just really appreciate how Edith Wharton challenged the societal norms of her time, especially when it came to women and their place in society. So Ethan Frome is a novella. It is 88 pages in my copy. And it's about a man who is observed by a visitor in this town, the very small New England town. And the visitor just observes this very depressed man, sad in not only his face and facial affect, but also stooped over, his clothes are battered. He just looks like the world has beaten him down. And it's very snowy, so it's very atmospheric. And the visitor ends up needing a ride from Ethan Frome and kind of gets to know him. And so we go and look at Ethan's life and kind of the choices he made and what was available to him, but also the place of 2 women in his life. And I go back and forth with how I feel about Ethan Frome. In college, when I was doing all my study and my analysis of Edith Wharton, I hated this. This was my least favorite. And I would compare it to her other work and why I liked those works, but I didn't like this one. And this time I gave it a 4-star. And I think I just appreciated more about how life and life circumstances and things that happen and the choices you make can all lead to a life that you just hadn't planned. And that's kind of where Ethan Frome comes from. This also had several short stories in it, and 2 of them were 5 stars for me. One was Afterward. Afterward is about a couple that goes and rents a mansion that is kind of run down, doesn't have any running water or electricity. They're roughing it, if you will. And it's a ghost story. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. And then the other one that I gave 5 stars to is called Currentryads, which is a man goes and he is visiting a rundown mansion, castle, and there's ghosts. And he kind of finds out why there's this pack of dogs there, and no one goes there, and the ghost vibes that he's getting. The other stories in here, there were a couple other stories that were kind of okay, but those two definitely left an impact. So the next one I finished was Less by Andrew Sean Greer. This is one of my 12 and 25 books. Look at me getting these goals going. And it was on my TBR for January. This is about Andrew Less, who is a novelist and is having a hard time writing anything new. The book that he sent to his publishers, they are not excited about. And so he also has broken up with a man, and that man is now getting married, and he gets an invitation to the wedding. So that kind of sends him on a self-reflection journey, and also in order to not be available for the wedding, that's the main thing, is not being available for the wedding. He accepts all these invitations to go around the world, accept prizes and make speeches and teach a class and all these things. And during that time, he's doing reflection over his life. One thing I did really like about this is Arthur Less is an older main character, which is something that I've been looking for in my reading. He definitely didn't live the life he intended. Like, he's not where he expected to be. And it also is about, there's also an element of found family in this novel that I really appreciated, and how asking for what you want is something that's hard to do, but can have good outcomes if you do that. So I did enjoy it. I felt like it was kind of slow, all the reminiscing. And it ended up being more of a love story than I expected, which was fine. That definitely didn't bother me at all. I thought it was well done. I only gave it a 3-star though. It was just okay. Yeah. So I know there's more in this series. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue. We'll see. Okay, so then I was doing a puzzle and just needed an audiobook. And I wanted something quick and I wanted something engaging. So I tried a couple of different, and I ended up listening to How Can I Help You by Laura Sims. This was a really strange book. Just strange. It was strange. It's about a librarian who used to be a nurse, and there's kind of, the way that it's set up, there's kind of flashbacks, but yeah, there's a serial killer involved. It's just strange. It's strange. It's about obsession for sure. And quirky characters, very quirky characters. And it's all set in the library, which, you know, is fun, although this book is really weird. I gave it a 3-star because it definitely kept my interest, and it kept me focused on the puzzle for sure. The next one I finished was The Trees by Percival Everett. This was another pretty strange book. It's a murder mystery taking place in Money, Mississippi, and there's two agents from the Mississippi Bureau of Investigations, the MBI, and then there's an agent that comes in from the FBI, and there's the people that are killed are white, and they are kind of mutilated when they're killed. And then there's always a black body that is already deceased at the crime scene. That's kind of how the mystery starts. I really like the writing style. I'm definitely going to be reading more Percival Everett. I felt like it was slow at points, and there were a lot of threads to pull together. He did a good job at pulling it together in the end, mostly. So I liked the story. It had a little bit of a supernatural, magical realism kind of vibe, and speaks a lot to the history of lynching and race relationships in the South, prejudice, discrimination, murder, all those things that were covered up, and where the local sheriff and the local authorities fit in. Yeah, so I gave this a 4-star. I did really like it. So then I picked up, this was my attempt at the Short Stack Readathon and Winterween. And I'll post the hosts for those below. This book is about, it's kind of a retelling of Sleeping Beauty from a Toad's perspective. And it had interesting elements. It had, magical realism. It had found family. It had evil child. It had all those things. I rated it a 3-star. It was fine. It wasn't like anything extraordinary. I do love the graphics. And then I read, on my trip, I read A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro, translated by Frances Riddle. This book is about motherhood. We follow Mary, who is going back to her home country of Argentina. She hasn't been back in 20 years. We don't really know why she hasn't, but there's something in Argentina that has kept her from going back. Some tragedy has happened or something happened. But her husband dies in the U.S., and he was going to go, he was like the head of this educational classification type certificate of excellence type program. So instead she goes to Argentina to evaluate this school that she's very familiar with. And we get snapshots back to her life before she left Argentina. And as the book goes on, we find out why she left. And it's heartbreaking. It's a look at motherhood from a totally different perspective than I hope anyone ever has to deal with. It's about guilt and reconciliation. It's you know, that question of who's to blame. And ultimately, I think it's a question of how far a mother will go to protect their child. It was beautiful. I love Claudia Pinero's writing, and this is the second by her. That is, I think the second. No, I think Elena Knows was 4.5 stars for me, but I'm not doing half stars anymore. We're doing a full 5 stars. This was beautiful. It almost had me crying in the airport, which I don't cry at books, but the end of this book, oh my gosh. Yeah, highly recommend this. And then, let's see. Yep, this is the next one. I'm going to link my Alice Feeney vlog below. But I went and met Alice Feeney the day after this, her latest, Beautiful Ugly, was released. And I read it. I finished a Little Luck on the plane. But when I got home, I read this. And I read it. I had the audio for it because Richard Armitage narrates it, and he is one of my favorite actors, one of my favorite narrators. If he's in it, I'm watching it, kind of thing. I had it as one of my credits on Libro FM, and so I listened to it, and I think I listened to it in like 12 hours. And only because I was exhausted and needed to go to sleep. And then when I woke up, I finished it. It was so good and such a classic Alice Feeney. Unreliable narrator. Don't know who you can trust. Twists at every turn. And a beautiful scenery. Beautiful scenery. The Scottish coast. Just beautiful. So we're following the story of Grady, who is a New York Times bestseller. And when he finds out that his book is on the bestsellers list, he's talking to his wife on the phone and she disappears. And then the book flash forwards about a year later to kind of find out what happened to Grady's life since his wife went missing. And it kind of just goes from there. And it's creepy. It is really creepy. Did I figure it out? No, I did not. But I kind of liked it. I mean, I really liked it. And it's got a little nod to feminism in it, and I kind of appreciate that too. So, Alice Feeney is one of my favorites, and she is so funny in person. And I think one of the things that I liked was knowing kind of her process for writing her novels. And she figures out scenes when she's walking her dog and is like talking out the characters' scenes in her head while she's walking her dog, which I have a true appreciation for. So, and beautiful cover, of course. All right, so that's what I've read so far this month. What I am currently reading is kind of hilarious. I did say that I was going to take it easy, right? I was going to go slower with my reading this year. Yeah, not so much. So, one book I'm reading is The Many Daughters of Afam Moy by Jamie Ford. I'm about a little over halfway through this book, and I will finish it this week because it's for my book club with Krista Books and Jams, and our book club discussion is on Sunday. So I will finish this one. I'm enjoying it more than let's put it this way. It started off really slow and confusing because there's a lot of daughters. There is a family tree, but if I have to check it 5 and 10 times in one chapter, I don't know. That's kind of a lot to have to check back. But then the middle, I'm really getting into. So it's got past, it's got the historical perspective, it's got current perspective, and then it has a future perspective as well. So that's really, really interesting. I don't know. Well, we'll talk about that one. We'll talk about that one at the end. I am slowly reading In Ordinary Time by Carmel McMahon. Yeah. Um, this is an Irish author who is writing about her family history, but also the history of the mother and baby homes in Ireland. It seems to be a theme that I like to read about. And I'm not really sure if that's because my mom's side of the family is Irish. I was raised Catholic, so it also has a connection to the Catholic Church. And yeah, I've already tabbed a lot. And that's about where I'm at in the book. So it's a very sad story about what happened to women if they became pregnant out of wedlock. And the author talks about it in terms of her own family and also her history and her experience. She comes to America from Ireland in her 20s, late teens, early 20s, and kind of her experience of trying to make ends meet. So that's one. I also said I wasn't going to do a bunch of readathons and challenges, but then I hear about them and they sound so good. So I am doing the Read Good challenge that is put on by Ben Reads Good. I'll link his channel below. And the prompt for January is to read a book by an author named Anne. It's Annuary. So I am reading How to Be More Hedgehog by Anne Marie Conway. I've seen this on a couple of booktubers from the UK. I can't remember who I first saw this by, but I know Jack at Spread Book Joy likes this, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's about a girl who has a stutter and also is dealing with the divorce of her parents. And her brother, they're kind of responding to it in different ways. As is typical, her brother's older and kind of feels abandoned by the dad. And the little girl, why can't I think of your name? Lily. Lily just wants everyone to be happy. So that's that one. And then, okay, so here's the one we need to talk about. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Can't speak today. I've tried this on audio and I've tried it in hard copy and it's really boring. Please convince me to keep reading it. Just go ahead, convince me. Okay. I'm also doing a read-along because I've never done a read-along with Nicole from Noteworthy Fiction, and so I wanted to do one. And this is a book I've always wanted to read. This is An Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I've only gotten through the prologue because I didn't realize how fast book club was approaching and I needed to read that book. So when I'm done with the Jamie Ford book, I'm going to come back to Invisible Man. But so far, it's interesting. It's interesting. It's readable. And that's one of my main things with classics. So that is what I'm reading right now, and what I've read this month so far. What are you reading? Have you found any 5 stars? I've gotten two 5 stars and a couple of short story 5 stars. But my lowest rated is a 3 star, and I think that's a win. No DNFs yet, but tell me, remember, in the comments below, should I DNF Little Women? I'm just not feeling it right now. And maybe because I know the story, because I've watched the movies before. Yeah, let me know in the comments. I hope y'all are doing well, and if you're experiencing the very cold weather like we are, or snow, feet and feet of snow, yeah, feet of snow, I hope you're staying warm and safe, and I will see you very soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.